CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, #28th day of September 2016. Well, I got that covered. Let's take a look at the numbers. Here in the U.S., the Dow is down 24 points, pretty quiet. NASDAQ is down 12, the S&P is down 5, the Russell 2000 is down 4. Janet Yellen was testifying this morning, Draghi was speaking, and the markets were, as you can see from my chart, just rolling sideways. This is an old weekly trading zone. I'm going to make those all disappear during today's broadcast, and then we come back tomorrow. We'll have this week's zones. Partners, of course, have the zones Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern before Wall Street wakes up so that they can get their charts all squared away and ready to go for the day and for the week. Now, price today has been oscillating around a zone from last week, 52.53. You're above it, below it, above it, below it. The market can't seem to make up its mind exactly what it wants to do. And that seems to be the theme of late. This market, let's go daily for a minute. This is soybeans, by the way. And as you recall, we were talking to Chris Robinson back on Friday, and we talked about this trend line that stretched all the way back to March 2nd, and that we had hit it here and here and here. Now we got 3 days in a row. Question is the trend line going to fail or hold? If it holds, then we go back to the middle of the channel. This isn't really a channel, but you can see where the halfway point roughly is, right about here. That's the high side and that's the low side. And once you get to the 50 yard line, or the 50% mark, or the halfway point, whatever you want to refer to it as, then it becomes a coin toss whether or not you're heading higher or lower. The fact that we've sat here for 3 days like this, and we've even got this little tail sticking out below the trend line, I'd really look for a move higher. In fact, I'd like to hang on to that chart, if I might, if the DT Pro will allow me one more, because I want to keep that. That's a daily chart of beans, but I want to pull up a daily chart of the S&P. Hey, it's going to go along with it. Alright, let's go daily. Okay. This goes back to... Oh, we need to scrunch this up and really take a close look at it. This goes back to... I almost had it. Here. I don't like to do this. But I will. Or will I? There we go. I wanted to see this little double bottom that goes back into, what day is that, January 20th and February 11th. That puts us down at the 1800 level. Okay. We had a nice rally right up here. We put in a double top in June and July. We sold off. Who wants to bet that's a fib number? Of course it is. Overshot the 38 by just a little bit, and then turned around and look at all of this. Then we think the big break's finally coming right here. On this day, we dropped. If I can make it talk to me. High of 2178 and a low of 2119. That's 78. That's basically that's 58 points. 500 points on the Dow would be the equivalent. Now, here's where it's important. We pulled back to the 38. And from that area, let's take a look. We did a very shallow retracement. Actually, we caught off of this leg of the journey, we caught a 38. If we went the whole distance, we would see a shallow pullback of 24. So that's always how you measure it. You either measure it from got to take a look at the entire move, but of course you can always go back further and further, and you can go, okay, where does this entire move start? Well, I think for this purpose we can say the beginning of the year. And so if we draw the whole thing, let's get out this middle one. We've got a 24% retracement. If we go from the low to the high, you get a 24% retracement, which is very shallow. And so this September 9th, and that 24% retracement caught it. Looks like almost to the tick. And so we're just kind of hanging out here, you know, pedaling towards the end of the year, pedaling towards the election, pedaling towards whatever the future holds. U.S. markets were all red. Again, the Dow down 24, now down 5. NASDAQ down 8, S&P down 2, Russell 2000 down 3. In our commodity basket, crude oil up 57 cents, and gold is down $6.10, trading at $13.24.30. In the Asian markets, the Nikkei is down 218. That's a big deal. It's over 1%. Shanghai is down 10 points. Not a big deal. And the Hang Seng got some green in it today, up 47 points, but still not enough to qualify as a mover or a shaker. Okay, European markets, DAX up 76 points. FTSE up 41, and the CAC up 33. All three of those are up just a little more than half of 1%. So it's pretty safe to say it's quiet in Europe, quiet in Asia. Well, the Nikkei, that's over 1%. And definitely quiet here on the home front. So, Elizabeth Warren is still chasing John Stumpf. She doesn't think that Wells Fargo went far enough by taking away $41 million in stock-based compensation in a tweet storm today. This is the world we live in today. Our government officials do business on Twitter. In a tweet storm on Wednesday, the Democratic senator from Massachusetts said that the clawback authorized by the Wells Board of Directors was a small step in the right direction, but not a complete solution. Wells Fargo's CEO Stump will be just fine. He keeps his job, and most of the money he made while massive fraud went on under his nose. 5,300 employees, rank and file, people like you and me, 5,300 people lost their job for doing things that it's pretty much accepted. They did it because of pressure from above. They got to make their numbers. She also reiterated her claim during Stump's testimony last week to the Senate Banking Committee that he should return all the money he's made since 2011, when the bank's employees began opening accounts without customers' knowledge. She repeated her belief that Stump should resign and be criminally investigated by the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Stump and Wells have been under fire for nearly a month after announcing the bank would pay $185 million in restitutions to its regulators for opening 2 million accounts. That's right. 2 million accounts without the knowledge of customers. Senators alleged that the high-stress environment at the bank led to the scandal. Warren said that this high-pressure culture led to the firing of junior-level employees, but Stump is only facing losing part of his pay. He's scheduled to go before the House Committee on Financial Services tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. So they may go after more. I'm very surprised that they're allowing him to keep his job. And I'm curious, do you know someone who works for Wells Fargo? It would be very interesting to have a discussion with someone who not only worked at Wells Fargo, but was one of the 5,300 let go, and to hear their side of the story. And I wonder why we haven't seen any of that. Fox News sent out a memo yesterday reminding television producers and the politics team that unscientific online polls do not meet our editorial standards. Dana Blanton, the vice president of the public opinion research at Fox News, explained in the memo obtained by Business Insider that online polls like the one on Drudge, Time, etc., where people can opt in or self-elect, are really just for fun. As most of the publications themselves clearly state, the sample obviously can't be representative of the electorate because they only reflect the views of those internet users who have chosen to participate. And I think we all forget that when we start to hear these numbers. As the Fox News executive pointed out, users who participate in such polls must have internet access, be online at the time of the poll, be fans of the website in question, and self-select to participate. Another problem we know: some campaigns and groups of supporters encourage people to vote in online polls and flood the results. These quickie click items do not meet our editorial standards. And I think that's something we should all keep in mind. You got to be online. You got to be on that site. And based upon the slant of that site, that's going to say a lot about whether or not you would be on that site. An online poll on Cosmopolitan would probably draw greatly different results than the same exact poll held on I don't know, bass fishermen, game and garden. You understand what I'm saying? It's all about the audience. I mean, where you take the poll, who you ask the questions to, that's going to determine your results. You can skew the numbers ahead of time by placing yourself in the proper position. At least 3 Fox News hosts cited unscientific online polls in the hours after Monday night's presidential debate to suggest that Donald Trump emerged as the winner of the political showdown. Trump had come out ahead in a slew of unscientific polls, or polls in which the sample of participants did not accurately reflect the sample of viewers who watched the debate. Such polls are almost always discounted by professional pollsters and analysts. Those are the people that get paid to take polls. So, of course, they're not going to take, the online polls seriously. The only scientific survey conducted in the debate's immediate aftermath was the CNN ORC Instant Poll, which showed that viewers thought Hillary Clinton handily defeated Trump. Respondents to a Morning Consult poll released Wednesday also said 49% to 26% that Clinton bested Trump in the debate. News networks and other organizations go to great effort and rigor to conduct scientific polls for good reason. They know quick vote items posted on the web are nonsense and not true measures of public opinion. Blanton further pointed out that instant snap polls are different from online polls, but can be used on air with caution. Since the memo was issued, however, some Fox hosts have continued to cite the online polls, often failing to even note such polls were unscientific and conducted over the internet. Sean Hannity, who has led the charge citing the unscientific polls, continued to do so Tuesday night after the memo went out. Well, when you're Sean Hannity, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You got this list of polls. Donald Trump wins, he said during one segment. You watch TV, Hillary Clinton wins. Brian Kilmeade and a host of Fox and Friends also referred to the online polls during an interview with a Trump official Wednesday morning. The online poll shows you guys won in overwhelming margins, he said, a comment for which Trump later thanked him on Twitter. A representative for Fox noted that both Hannity and Kilmeade are hosts in the network's lineup of opinion programming. That's the key word, opinion programming. The representative also pointed out that Hannity has publicly disclosed that he has endorsed Trump. Hannity, in fact, stirred controversy last week when he participated in an official web ad for the Republican presidential nominee. The Fox News representative later told the Washington Post the person had no knowledge he was participating in this, and he will not be doing anything along these lines for the remainder of the election. It's not like he's a newscaster. He's a guy with a microphone and an opinion. Trump frequently touted online polls in the aftermath of the GOP debates to argue that he won. After the Monday face-off with Clinton, he continued the pattern, repeatedly touting polls that supporters had flooded to designate him the winner. Not only were those polls contrary to the scientific surveys conducted, but focus groups are also overwhelmingly selecting Clinton as the debate winner. Now, I know a lot of people in this audience are pro-Trump, but whether you're pro-Trump or not, in all honesty, did he win the election? Did he win the debate? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Did he win the debate? Now, you can say yes or no, and it doesn't affect whether or not what party you are. Are you conservative, liberal? Just watching the screen. Who won? Yeah, I know. It's pretty rough going, huh? All right.
Gingrich thinks Trump won.
I'm sorry.
I said Newt Gingrich thinks Trump won.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Who do you think won?
I didn't watch it. I only watched the last 5 minutes. Yeah, an hour and a half of watching those two argue and bicker. It's not going to change my mind.
Okay, you ready to do the recap?
Sure. I am ready.
Okay, take it away.
All right. Okay. Check. All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 28th day of September, 2016. Let's see. Today, in the live trading room, we lost 8 ticks in soybeans, we made 8 ticks on the euro, we made 13 ticks in crude oil, and 10 ticks in gold. We were up $180 a contract today. Okay. Today it took 96 minutes and 10 trades to get to our goal for the day, and we ended, well, when we closed out that trade, we were up $120 a contract. Took a total of 14 trades. Okay, 14 trades today. On the month now, we're up $2,987.50. That's over 19 trading days, averaging $157 per day. Just looking. Our lowest month of the year was $33.46 so far. So we've got a couple days left to this month to get that up over 3,400 or 3,350. I need to make $375 over the next 2 days. I almost made it yesterday. Anyway, so we're up $29.87 this month, over 19 trading days, averaging $157 a day. If you had an $8 commission, your net profit would be $1,195. With a $5 commission, your net profit would be $1,867. On the year now, we're at $43,832. That's over 183 trading days, averaging $239 per day. $239 per day. Okay. And if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column where it says name, put in your name. Where it says email, put in your email. Click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay. If you don't click that link, you don't get the free trial. All right. It's as simple as that. Hang on just a second. Okay. All right. So let's get into the actual trades here. Okay. Okay. There, I'm having some technical difficulties. All right. The actual trades on gold. We had just these 2 trades. The first one was 6 ticks profit. The second one was 4 ticks profit, putting us at plus 10. During the break, there was a nice long trade here off the BBC on gold, followed up by a momentum long trade right there. Okay. There was a second stab at the long right there. And now, let's see. Now it's starting to pull back a little bit like this for a possible short trade. Okay. On the ES, we pointed out just a couple of trades today. This one right here, and this one over here. Okay, those are the 2 trades that we pointed out, and both of them would have worked out. During the break, it went down, hit the weekly trading zone, and it bounced off it. We don't have any trades though. Okay, that was the ES today. Crude oil. Let's see on the crude. We had crude inventories come out today. Way off again. Way off the expectations. Okay. On crude, our first trade was right here. We made 1 tick profit on that one. Then it just got really choppy. Really, really choppy. And then the crude inventories came out. And then we waited a few minutes. And we took a trade here with a break even. And we got 10 ticks profit on this one, putting us at plus 11. Got a break even there. And I believe we got 2 ticks profit on this one, putting us at plus 13. Okay. And during the break, there was some nice trades right in here, right there, and there, and there, and there. On that move up. Some really nice trades. There was a short trade right here. Would have been a break even, went 4 ticks in profit. Then everything turned around and went back up. There was a long trade here, another long trade there, and more long trades in here. Okay, and then it turned around and started going down again. So the activity was in crude oil today. Yeah, there was pretty good volatility in crude. Soybeans, we stopped out on this first trade right here, and then we got break even on these next 2 trades. I was trying to put in a higher swing, but it failed. Over here, it finally just gave up and dropped. There was a short trade from right there to capture that move down. It's actually setting up another one right now. This is where the trend line would be. So you need to close below that trend line. Okay. On the euro, this was our first trade. We had a break even on our first trade. Oh, nope, wait, that wasn't our first trade. This was our first trade. We stopped out on our first trade. Then we had a break even in here. Then we had 12 ticks profit on this one to put us at plus 4. And then 4 ticks profit on this to get us up to plus 8. Okay, and during the break we bounced off the BBC right here with a long trade. There was another long trade right here. Would have been a break even. Then we didn't put in a higher swing, so we wouldn't have been going for this one. Okay. And that was it. That was our trading for the morning. Let's see. Let me bring this back up. Alright, if you have not taken the free trial with us in the last 6 months, go to CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay, click that link, and then we know you took the trial, and we'll be able to help you out. Okay. Let's see what else. What else? Oh, this one. Okay. Today in the live trading room, we lost 8 ticks in soybeans. We made 8 ticks in the euro. Made 13 ticks in crude and 10 ticks in gold. We're up $180 contract today. Okay. Crude oil is our big winner of the month. Crude oil and soybeans this month. What was it last month? Crude oil and gold. And the month before that, soybeans and gold. And the month before that, soybeans, crude, and gold. That's interesting. Okay. So it looks like soybeans usually plays a pretty big part. Okay, so on the month we're up $29,8750. That's over 19 trading days, averaging $157 a day. On the year we're up $43,832. That's over 103 trading days, averaging $239 per day. $239 per day. Okay, that's where we stand on the day, on the week, on the month, and on the year. With that, I will shut off the recording, and we can head back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, if you are on the line, I can pass it over to you.
Yep, right here. Send them on.
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Okay. So what was the recap of the recap today?
Today it took us 96 minutes and 10 trades to get to $120 a contract.
Okie doke. Well, the main thing is we got there.
Yes, we did. We did indeed.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, guys. Let's go to our good word for the day. And today we're going to talk about enjoying each day, because we have no promise of a tomorrow. Ecclesiastes 9:7 says, "Be happy, because that's what God wants you to do." Now, one of our listeners recently had encouraged me to read Ecclesiastes, which of course I've read a couple times, at least. But I did read it, and I read the part in particular that he wanted me to share with you. And Solomon writes in that passage, so go eat your food and enjoy it, drink your wine and be happy, because that's what God wants you to do. Put on nice clothes and make yourself look good. Enjoy life with the wife you love. Enjoy all the useless days of this useless life God has given you here on earth, because it's all you have. So enjoy the work you do here on earth. Whatever work you do, do your best, because you're going to the grave. That's Ecclesiastes 9:7 through 10. Now, despite the heavy-handed sarcasm, Solomon does have a point here, and the whole key to the understanding that scripture is that he was being sarcastic. But despite his sarcasm, Solomon has a point. 2 chapters later, he gives the bottom line for a happy life. And so, if that's what you're interested in, a happy, meaningful, purposeful life, and I think that's something that we all endeavor to achieve, many of us using different methods, but at the end of the day, I think that's what we all want to do, is be happy. But it's clearly laid out after the sarcasm: fear God and keep his commandments. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Fear God and keep his commandments. Now, fear is the beginning of wisdom. We're always waiting for something. What are you waiting for? To graduate, get married, have children, retire? You know, I'll be happy when I accomplish this, achieve that, I have a certain number in my bank account. There's always this one other thing, this one other duck that we need to line up before we actually are, quote unquote, happy. Life is about the journey, not the destination. Your life is here and now. Your family is here and now. Your marriage is here and now. Your career is here and now. The journey takes place every day. And you can find meaning when you search for a greater purpose. You can find small joys every day if you have eyes of faith. Solomon recognized that ultimately we all end up at the same destination, the grave. The only difference lies in how much we enjoy the journey. Instead of obsessing over things that you can't control, revere God, keep His commandments, and leave the control to Him. Live your life for Him and let Him control the show. Phil Cook writes, I have to believe that God is in control, and for me to always demand answers is to assume His role. I've decided to sit back and let Him be God and let me be me. That's a philosophy that we would all do well to adapt. I'll be me, you be me, you be you, and we'll let God be God. Now that is the key to not only a happy day, but a happy life. Enjoying each day and each moment. Not waiting, man, when the weekend gets here, I'm really going to have a great time. Why? Oh, because I'm going to go fishing. Okay. But you're not going to enjoy today. Why not enjoy today? Why not enjoy whatever today has to offer? Because, again, we have no guarantee of tomorrow. So I encourage each of you to take some time, some quiet time, spend some time with the one that has all of the answers. And if you're not making the most of each day, if you're not enjoying each day, ask Him. Well, one thing about that fellow is he's persistent. It's a telemarketer. But anyway, even though he's a very nice guy. I spoke with him yesterday. But anyway, enjoy each day. Be happy, because this is what God wants you to do. Ecclesiastes 9:7. All right? All right. Now, on the news front, other than this chaos about the president, there's just not I'm just scanning these headlines. Oh, this looks interesting enough to take a look at. The underground economy in prison. Yeah, I know, we go everywhere here on this show. We go from the markets to the Bible, to politics, to the underground economy in prison. The underground economy in prison is way more sophisticated than you might think. Inmates aren't allowed to carry cash. What they earn from prison jobs goes into commissary accounts, which allows prisoners to buy better food and other personal care items from the prison store. There are other currencies, though. One of the most popular items is mackerel. Really? Or mac in prison lingo, which costs about $1.47 a can at the commissary. I've seen some of the craziest stuff used as currency. This is a comment from Michael Smith Baker, who's actually an inmate at the New York Department of Correction. The highest, let's see, after mackerel, we've got stamps, potato chips, The highest value currency in prison is marijuana. I'm pretty sure they don't sell that in the commissary. Let's say I have an ounce of marijuana. I am the man. Do you understand? I am the man, and I put prices on my product. I tell people, listen, I want all your phone calls for a week, or I want $50 in commissary. A joint can cost 3 cans of Mac, or around $5. Nobody actually sits there and does the math, Baker said. Nobody's going to say you owe me 37 cents. While Baker doesn't keep a ledger because he does transactions on a personal basis, gangs have a more structured approach. Typically, the gang leader appoints people who are responsible for education, economics, sacrifice, and security. The person who is in charge of economics will go out, distribute drugs, keep a loan book, and report back to the leader. If you don't know how to add before prison, you know how to add now.
Hours of practice.
This is a picture from the article. An inmate stands in one of the shops at the pavilion. Number 6, assigned to foreigners at La Jolla. This is in Panama City. Well, the headline, as you can see, there was enough to suck me in, but boy, the meat in the article wasn't enough to hold my attention. Now, Wayne Jett went on vacation. I sent him an email. I'm not sure if he's back yet or not. Dane just sent me an article. What is this all about? Oh, it's a video on his site, geoengineeringwatch.org. All right, well, let's just, if Wayne's back, he'll pop in, because I sent him an email to see if he was back. The fact that I haven't heard back from him might mean he's not back yet. So, with that said, hey, I lost my chat box. Can somebody give me a Y in the chat box? Thank you very much. Appreciate that, gentlemen. Hey, Ed, I think it was you that had asked me to get the workshops updated. Was that you? Okay, they're all updated through last Thursday. Number 273. You're very welcome. My pleasure. Sorry I got behind. In fact, if typically, unless Michael's flying out on a Friday, he'll get it rendered on his end, and then once that's done, then I can put it on the website. So if you goose me Friday, if he's got his end done, I'll get mine done. I don't know how we ended up 3 episodes behind, but anyway, it's caught up now. So let's see what the markets did overnight. Let's just take a look. Now, just a reminder that you can take the trial, the Concierge Trade Alert trial, for $1. $1. And that puts these alerts in your inbox every night for 5 consecutive trading days. Okay. And then you have a day to decide whether or not you want to continue to receive them. And if you don't, you simply go in and cancel. Don't forget the go in and cancel part, because it's a subscription type service, and so You pay $1 for the trial, and then you get 5 days, 5 consecutive trading days, and then on the, I think it's the 7th day, that's when it bills you for the next month. So all you have to do is log into your account, and if you don't want to continue to receive them, then you just click cancel. It's a piece of cake. Okay. As long as you don't forget. So make a note to yourself. Because it's not, we don't go in and bill you once you sign up for the trial, then it's just an automated process. So you start it and you can stop it. It's just it's a matter of logging into your account, into your PayPal account, and first taking the trial. And then if you decide you don't want to continue to receive them after the first 5 days, then you just log back in and you cancel before it bills you for the quarter. Okay, there's a quarterly and also an annual rate. And if you're on the quarterly and you're coming due for renewal on your quarterly, just be aware that there is an annual rate, and that saves you $1,000 a year. So that's no small piece of change. I wish I could find something exciting here in these markets to show you, but if I do, it's not going to be in the S&P. I'll tell you that. I mean, what do we have for daily range? 58 on the upside, or for the session, I should say. The session high came right after the London Open, and we put in a high up at 58. Okay, and we've put in a low down at 44. So that's a 14-point range, if I did the math correct, which that's tight. That's really tight. But is there room to get your points? Yeah, there is. Last night we were looking to be buyers at 21.55, which is right there. $21.55, and the swing high was $21.58. Let me stretch this out a little bit. And you know what? All these zones from last week, let's just go ahead and, you know what? We could just move them into the proper position. We could do that. 21.58. 21.55. So that's a 3-point move. Now our daily goal, 3 points available. Our daily goal is 2 points. If you're trading the 2420 blueprint, $100 per contract per day. Doesn't sound like much to start with, but once you become consistent at making $100 per day, after 10 days you go live with your first contract. Once you increase your account balance by $2,000, you add a second contract. Then we go to the calendar, and the calendar tells us when to add the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. Now, it's very feasible, if you stay within the guidelines, to be at 4 contracts by the 6-month mark. Okay. Now, that's $400 a day gross. It's $2,000 a week gross. So after your commissions, it puts you in not exactly tall cotton, but it puts you in an area where most people probably could pay their bills. Okay, now that's 6 months into the job. That's coming in with no real experience. But where it really starts to get exciting is after about a year. You know, the 24/20 blueprint is designed to take you from 1 to 20 contracts over a period of 24 months. Okay? Now, trading 20 contracts is no different than trading one contract, except the numbers that are involved and the amount of emotional pressure that it puts on you. And so that's why we're very strict in growing your account size one contract at a time. And it's difficult to stick to that. I know it is, but the more effort you put into meeting the daily goal, learning to meet the daily goal, to be consistent. You have 10 trades available to reach that daily goal. If you can become consistent at that, every day the market, even on tight range days like today, there's going to be enough movement that you should be able to pick up a couple of points. You may not get them all in one trade, and that's what frustrates a lot of traders. They want to just come in and take a trade and make their goal, and after they do that a few times, on the day that they have to take 2 trades or 3 trades or 4 trades, they can sort of go into a self-destruct mode. And so you really have to focus on taking the emotions out of the picture. Now, the best book in the world, you know what I'm going to recommend, is Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of his passing, so that'll be in October. That's next month. That's a few days from now. So, point being, if you haven't read that book, I'm going to put it up on the screen. audibletrial.com/CFRN. Okay, now the book you want is Trading in the Zone. There's 2 books by that name. One won't do you any good. You want the one written by Mark Douglas. It digs deep into the thing I was just talking about, which is separating your trading from your emotions. Okay, emotional traders just don't survive. There's a lot of boom and bust. One day you're dancing on the desktop, the next day you're curled up in the fetal position underneath your desk. And so that's not what you want. You want to be steady, slow and steady. audibletrial.com. Now, just like we give a free trial in hopes that you'll become a CFRN partner, Audible gives you a free audiobook in hopes that you'll become a member of their book club. They give you a couple weeks to a month to make your decision. And just like our concierge trial, if you go in and cancel, you aren't billed anything additionally, and the book is yours to keep. You might find you like the audiobook experience, and you might want to receive one audiobook a month of your choice. They have 180,000 titles to choose from, I think. and I liked it, and that's how they ended up being a sponsor of our radio show. So check it out if you've never, even if you have the book, having it on your smartphone or on your tablet or on your PC where you can pop your headphones on and listen to chapter 6 and in particular chapter 7, where it talks about thinking in probabilities. That's the quickest way to get your emotions out of the trade, is when you learn to think in probabilities. Okay? All right, so audibletrial.com/CFRN. The book, the hardcover sells for about $40 in the bookstore. The audiobook sells for $25, I think. But as a member of our audience, just go to that address, and the copy that you are given, number one, it's a legal copy. Mark's wife, she still gets her royalties from just as if the book, audiobook had been bought. I know that there are some bootleg PDFs floating around on the internet. I really encourage you to, if somebody's given you one of those, throw it away and get a legitimate copy, okay? Because there's been a lot of legal issues since his passing. His wife has been under a lot of duress. Even Mark, in his final days, he was under a lot of duress because the publisher didn't think it was worth the amount of money it would take to try to chase down all these people with these PDFs. So anyway, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to deal with it. Just go get your free copy and hold your head high. And if you decide not to become a member of the book club, you keep the book forever. You can put it on 5 different devices. And Mark's wife still gets her royalty. So everybody wins that way. All right. So we were looking to buy 21.55. And the swing high was 58. I'm sorry, 58. And so there was 3 points available. And then over here, we're just stretching on over. Important price is important. Areas are almost always tested. And so this time we hit 21.57 and a quarter. So that's 2.25. Okay. Now. All right. 21.42 is where we were looking to be sellers, but the price never made it down into that area. Now, that's a weekly zone from last week, but we're already into the new week and we're already into Wednesday. So let's just go ahead and fix this chart. Get rid of that. So we got 71.72. And then 62.61. this is where we opened up on Sunday night. This was the close on Friday, this little red candle. This green candle was the Sunday night Globex open. So we reached up to that zone at 61.62, but we didn't quite make it. And we sold off. Now, below us is 43.44. From 61.62, we drop all the way to 43.44. $43.44. So price comes down and does the bounce, and then below 43.44 we're at 28.29. And so that's all I need to adjust, because that's how little we've traveled. 61.62, we've hit this zone, and we're again spending the majority of the week, 2 days now, pretty much inside of this zone from 44 up to 61, without enough strength to actually, make it to the zone. Like here, typically on an ordinary week, 55, we would have easily pushed right up into the zone at 61. That would have given us a nice 6-point move. And then this follow through, even if it didn't make it all the way to the zone, would have been better than 2 1/4. Now, what we have hit, and this is an important number to keep in mind, is this 21.34, last year's high. I mean, we've been bouncing off that thing for, it's just like a magnet, it keeps pulling price back to it. We hit it twice this week. Okay. So that's about it for the S&P. Until there is some kind of event to set the markets back in motion. And if you're new to the markets, it'll come. When it's good and ready. Let's go to the Dow. Okay. So last night we got the alerts out at 9:15. So that's 21:15. So we need 21:30. That's right there. 21:30. Okay. And we've lost our audio connection. Well, that's nice. Always nice. Alright, I think audio just got restored. GoToWebinar had a hiccup. All right, so we wanted to be a buyer at 181.60. Okay, I guess audio has now been restored. All right, from 181.60. Swing high here was 84. Yes, Leslie.
Oh, I have Wayne Jett.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks so much.
Wayne?
Yes.
Hey, Wayne. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with you. Just last week.
Yes, you were, I think you were on a little vacation. Is that correct? Wayne, are you still there? Or did Leslie hang up on you? Wayne, are you there? That was odd. Now, let me see. He'll dial back in. Yes.
Wayne? Wayne?
Yes.
Yeah, did we lost him the first time there.
Well, I am on the telephone again. I
Okay.
tuned into the webinar, and it allows me to bring you up, and I can hear you clearly.
Uh-huh.
My mic says that I'm live, but I can't be heard, apparently.
Well, yeah, because you're on mute. If you're logged into the webinar, all you have to do is type into the chat box and let me know that you have arrived, and I will unmute your mic.
Okay, I'm here.
Let me take a look. There you are. No, okay.
My mic
you're
on
not.
the webcam says that I'm live, but it's not allowing me to be heard.
Okay. Well, you're not muted on this end.
Well, I'm not muted on my end either, but when I get on there, you can't hear me.
Well, that's odd. Okay. Well, we'll just use the telephone, I guess.
All right.
All right. So tell us.
What would you like to talk about today?
I hear an echo. I thought I heard an echo in the background. Maybe it was.
Just a minute. Can you hear me now?
Way off in the distance, yeah.
Well, that's because I'm using the mic on the webinar, and which you can't hear. But the telephone is still on, so I guess you can hear me from a distance.
Yeah. So I guess just go back to the just mute out the there. I'll mute you on the webinar. And
all right, I'm on the phone.
Okay, yeah, we got to get together and try to troubleshoot and see what's going on with that thing.
Well, let's see what we can talk about.
Well, tell me what's going on. What's got your interest this week, guys?
Right now,
yeah.
September 30th has my interest, and September 2nd, this weekend, October 3rd, next Monday. September 30th is the last day of the U.S. fiscal year. It's been reported by others that that will be the time that the U.S. currency will be reset with the rest of the world. That would be a very momentous event, to say the least. There are issues raised already in terms of the necessity for the reset. It's clear that it's going to have to happen, in my mind. There's the possibility that the U.S. currency, the U.S. government is already in default on its debt. One indication of that is that there appears to be no longer an effective debt limit on the U.S. government. It used to be announced regularly in accordance with congressional law, but it has not been for some time. Why? It's possible because the U.S. has already defaulted on its debt, even though the politicians are saying, oh, no, we would never do that, and it can't even be mentioned because it's such heresy. Well, we're not servicing our debt with anything of value. We're servicing our debt, if at all, only with additional electronic dollars provided by the Fed at no cost and no interest, almost no interest. And in that circumstance, effectively, it's default. The reason for the reset is that the rest of the world is not willing to continue to be paid in that way, which in effect really is no pay at all. And so they have insisted upon a rearrangement, a new arrangement for payment for international trade. And that requires, if they're going to take dollars at all any longer for their product, they insist that the value of the dollars be reset to a new level. It's been reported for some time that China had requested, along with the other countries, that there be an immediate devaluation of the dollar, 50%. This would be not the dollars belonging to everybody in the world, since the rest of the world, other than the United States, has been given these dollars with the representation that they actually have value, and value of a certain amount, while
Oh, I just lost you. Jerry, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh.
No.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I think
so
Dwayne's
Dwayne
trying to
needs
get-
to come back. Okay.
Yeah, Dwayne's trying to get back on right now, it looks like.
I'm
Oh,
I'm
okay.
here. Yeah.
There he is.
Oh,
Okay.
sweet. There you go. Okay.
All right, I'm with you.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, the GoToWebinar, it's dropped the audio connection a couple times during the show today. So, so the yuan is definitely being added to the currency basket, correct?
Well, it'll be added to the SDR, but that's not, in my mind, highly significant. Yes, it has some ramifications for the use of the dollars and the use of U.S. Treasury bonds, but what I'm talking about is a restructuring of the currencies around the world in terms of their relative valuations. Supposedly these have been floating. The market supposedly sets the value of the dollar, but that has not worked. It has allowed this tremendous flood of dollars into the world from the Fed since 2008. And so there's no longer any doubt that the dollar has a much lower value than the rigged markets have been allowing to be realized in the markets and the rest of the world. So the other, I could explain the rigging, but I think we've been through it somewhat before. I'll be happy to do it again now. But essentially, among other things, the interest rates are manipulated largely with the use of interest rate derivatives or swaps that confuse the market and make it appear that there's a great deal of demand for dollars, that everyone wants to be in the dollar, that everyone thinks the dollar is the best value and the most stable, even stronger than others. But it's really not the case, especially since the Fed has gone to almost zero interest rates, which means, in effect, that they issue dollars, as many dollars as their owners want. That is the big banks of Wall Street and the international banks,
Yeah.
and families who own them. The Fed has been allowing those entities to have as many dollars as they want, and we're talking in the trillions of dollars. Keep in mind, in that circumstance, that until 2008, the entire monetary base that was acknowledged as having been issued by the Fed was less than $1 trillion. It was 845 billion, and that had been issued basically since the beginning of the Federal Reserve up until then. Since then, there have been many trillions of additional dollars issued. I'm sure we don't know how many, because the Fed is never audited. We never have the truth about what they're doing. We certainly never have the full picture of what they're doing or with whom. And so as a result, the rest of the world has said, we're not going to do it any longer. We want out. We're not going to trade with you any longer as long as these phony dollars are being used to get all of our work and labor and services and products. And so there has been a demand for some time by the other countries of the world, primarily led by what's called the BRICS nations, saying that we want a fair deal. It's clear that the dollar is being used as a sham currency to loot the capital of every nation in the world. Not for the good of you Americans, but for the unjust and illicit, the criminal profiting or looting by the ruling elite. The families that own the Fed, the families that own Wall Street and international banks, Those are the ones who are stripping the value of the dollar into their account by simply issuing themselves dollars and using them to buy assets while people still think the dollar has some value. And so that's what's very possibly coming to a head at the close of business this Friday, September 30th. It's been said that that is has been chosen secretly as the capital reset date. It's also been reported some time back, some months and even years back, that that March of 2014 was going to be the reset date, and instead the U.S. had actually agreed to that, reportedly. But then instead of actually fulfilling the agreement, the U.S. secretly started the war in the Ukraine instead, pulled the coup that overthrew the government of the Ukraine, thereby posing a direct threat to the government of Russia, and starting that war as a diversion to keep the dollar afloat for the time being. It may very well be that this September 30th, this Friday, is the new reset date at which the dollar in the world would be split apart. All the dollars owned by people in the United States would become a new U.S. Treasury dollar, and the dollars in the rest of the world would be separated out, called something different, and managed by countries of the rest of the world to maintain its present value. However, the U.S. Treasury dollar would immediately be devalued by 50%. Some say the U.S. will insist that it be in 30% quick devaluations. But that would represent a drastic change in living standards in the U.S. and an immediate increase in cost of living for people in the U.S. And so we're going to watch and see what happens this weekend. It might cause not just a disruption in the markets, it might be a closure of the markets. It might be a direct disruption of government services. It might result in a tipping over of the big banks so that they go into a lockdown again and even start confiscating people's banking accounts. Are you with me still?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're saying. That what's going to happen on Friday has the potential to devalue if I had a dollar bill in my pocket, it would be worth 50 cents?
Essentially, yes. And that would be
okay. And so let's say a gallon of milk cost $1, and I have $1, and so today I can go buy that gallon of milk for $1. Are you saying that on Saturday? I'm not sure I understand how the mechanics of all this works. So
yeah,
maybe you can break it down and kind of explain it to us a little bit.
Let me explain it. It's a good question you ask. That's because the devaluation would be in relation to the value of other currencies in other nations of the world. Therefore, the 50% devaluation of the dollar would be in relation to anything that you buy from a foreign country. As far as goods produced here, goods and services, supposedly there would not be a direct influence on the prices here. except to the extent that whoever's providing those goods and services here in the U.S., if their costs are related to overseas activities, then they would be adjusting their prices in order to make up for the lost value they'd be getting from our dollars. But from strictly domestic transactions, prices would not necessarily change any.
Okay.
But if you're buying something such as a Japanese or a German or other product, like a car, or any other type of product, electronic or otherwise, you expect to see a doubling of the price based on a 50% devaluation of the dollar. That 50% devaluation is what is projected or said to be called for in the immediate capital reset or monetary reset that would take place when this reset occurs. Perhaps it'll be September 30th. Perhaps it'll be kicked down the road again. This is something that is definitely in our future because of the circumstance of the Fed having done this quantitative easing that has put out essentially unknown and almost unlimited numbers of dollars.
Right.
Those numbers of dollars can't possibly be recovered by the Fed because it has no assets that anybody else wants of any size that would allow them to sell those assets and get those dollars back. So that is the circumstance. There would be immediate increases in the cost of goods and services bought from abroad, and there would be other ripple effects and a very dramatic effect from the fact that others to which we are selling, their purchasing power would be doubled. And so they would have much higher buying power here in the U.S. So for items such as our food production, they would be able to buy our food with twice the buying power that we have. And therefore, it could be expected that farmers would sell abroad, and we would need them to sell abroad because otherwise we are spending $500 billion a year more for foreign products than we're selling to the other countries. And when we do that, they're going to have those dollars to come back over here and buy our assets, buy our food, buy our products. We will need to be selling them, otherwise they'll come and buy the entire country over a period of years, because $500 billion a year buys a lot of assets here that will go into foreign hands. And of course, when they buy our products, particularly our food, there are going to be shortages here. And there will be shortages of food. There's no better lesson at the current time than Venezuela. Only a few years back, a prosperous nation, and now its people are starving. They are starving. They have no beans because their beans have to be sold abroad in order to try to keep their currency from being devalued even further, and it's reduced to essentially being worthless now because they buy abroad and have nothing that people want to buy other than their food. So,
so this
yes,
event takes place on now. There's a book called The Big Reset Are you familiar with that book?
I haven't read it, but I think I'm familiar with the concepts.
Okay, but I mean, that's what you're talking about is what's happening this Friday.
Yes. The problem is that the dollar is still acting like it's the big boy on the block in the entire world. And the Federal Reserve has done exactly what it had in mind, I think, when it was formed. That is, as all fiat currencies, they always become worthless. And when they become worthless, all of those people who worked for them and saved them and used them and thought they were preserving their wealth wind up with nothing. And the people who operated the fiat currency system have stripped their wealth from them, put it in their accounts, and used those accounts to buy assets while the game was still going. And they wind up with all the assets, none of the money, and the people of the country subjected to that currency wind up penniless. That's what every fiat currency in the history of the world has done. And I heard it said just the other day, a very pertinent point, that this is the first time in the history of the world that every country has been subjected to nothing but fiat currencies. So we have a situation now in which all of the fiat currencies are going to collapse at once, worldwide. France was completely impoverished twice in about 100 years, once at the beginning of the 18th century, once at the end of the 18th century, both on the basis of fiat currencies adopted by their parliament. And it was completely devastating. Revolution. That's the kind of thing that happens with it. Starving people, guillotines, and so forth. And yet here we from the U.S. we've enabled these ruling elitist families, the ones that quite openly declare that they want 90% of the population of the world dead so that they have only themselves and their servants left. We have been the instrument by which they have done this to the entire world through the so-called U.S. Federal Reserve Board, which is a privately owned organization. It is not an agency of the federal government.
Yeah, I think anyone who's been a part of this radio audience for any length of time is well aware of that, because we've talked about it for years. But it's just by its. In fact, I put a little cartoon up on the blog the other day, and for any of you guys that haven't seen it, it's about a 10-minute animation about the creation of the Federal Reserve, and you really owe it to yourself to go and take a look at that. Let me see. It's called. Let me find it.
Let me add another point or two. There are other things going on. I may have mentioned to you last time that another commentator that I've mentioned to you before, Dr. Jim Willey, had reported, this may have occurred during the 2 weeks since we last spoke.
Uh-huh.
He reported that the United States, or China, had come to the United States in March and had said they were ready to go with a currency that would be gold-backed and would be stable in value.
Yeah, we've discussed that they've been accumulating gold quietly accumulating, secretly accumulating, whatever term you want to use, for some time. And that at some point they would, but how would they, through what mechanism would they prove to the world that they actually have, they've devalued their yuan? I assumed when they did that it was to match the amount of gold that they actually have in reserves. But, I mean, just because they tell us your currency is backed by gold, how do they go about proving it?
I feel sure that anyone doing this is going to permit a clear viewing and audit of their gold reserves. The primary requirement of such a system is confidence of the people in the validity of the value going into it. And in order to do that, you need to have a system that encompasses a substantial part of the trading world. Otherwise, any single country doing it will be overwhelmed by the entire world wanting to use their currency as the only honest currency in the world.
Right.
The smaller countries, for example, such as Switzerland, would be overwhelmed in that circumstance. Its currency would be made practically unusable because everybody would want it, and it would overwhelm everything else in their economy. What has been necessary in order to be ready to go with a currency takes a lot of planning, a lot of negotiation among countries in order to get a large enough portion of the international commerce and trade to be covered by this system in order to make it a commonly used currency, and therefore one that everybody can participate in without overwhelming the financial system of one country. And apparently that has been the reason for delay past the point of these years, particularly since 2008. Really, the problem has existed clearly since 1971 and was even apparent in 1944 when we made the Bretton Woods Agreement, by which the dollar became the only gold-backed currency, and we promised supposedly to do right in keeping it backed by gold and keeping its value stable. And from the beginning, it appears that the U.S. did not perform that promise. It began losing value, that is, issuing too many dollars to spend on one thing and another. But by 1971, they stopped their willingness to exchange gold for the dollars at all. And basically, I heard it said a few days ago that when France in 1968 said they wanted to exchange the dollars that accumulated over there for gold, we told them essentially to go back home or we will kill you. And that is the basis upon, that is how serious this thing is. This is not a matter of playing canasta around a picnic table. This is a matter of war and peace, just as shown by our initiation of war in the Ukraine and the efforts that are still underway by those, not everybody in the U.S., not everyone in the military, but those who are the instruments, the puppets of these elitists are at present doing what they can to start a war, of all things, with Russia. The same people on whom these elitists imposed the so-called communists, the Bolsheviks, who went in there and murdered 60 million to 100 million people, almost all Christian, in order to subjugate that nation. And fortunately, back toward the end of the 70s, the remaining Christians who were infiltrated high enough into the government were able to throw out the Bolsheviks and begin reclaiming their country. And now are, as far as I can tell, the people most interested in peace, and peace through defensive strength of anyone in the world. They have not been sending their military in under the name of establishing democracy in order to loot gold reserves and loot oil and every other valuable that these elitists who control the shadow government in the U.S. As they have been doing. So there we are.
Now you also mentioned banks confiscating accounts. I mean, are you concerned to the level that you are taking personal action yourself? I mean, are you leaving your money in the bank? Is it up for grabs? Don't mean to get too personal, but
right now the Deutsche Bank is certainly the topic of daily discussion, hourly, by the minute discussion as to whether it's going to collapse. It's been said that its net worth is a negative $1 trillion, and it is a very important bank in Europe. It's a very important bank in the United States. I might be overstating it by saying that it has been an instrument of the United States since the U.S. Really still continues to be the dominant force in Europe, including in Germany. And much of Deutsche Bank's troubles have resulted from the U.S.'s insistence that Deutsche Bank acquire Bankers Trust of New York back in the late 90s because Bankers Trust had been used by the Fed as the Fed's bank, doing various transactions, the exact nature of which we do not know. Mm-hmm. But the Fed insisted that they be bought by Deutsche Bank so that they would be offshore and therefore not any longer subject to surveillance or regulation by U.S. law. So all of the dark secrets of Bankers Trust were taken into Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank has been saddled with that ever since. And I don't think those dark secrets have become any more valuable and less onerous than they were when Bankers Trust had them here. I'm sure they're much bigger, much larger now than they were then. And so Deutsche Bank has many connections with other financial institutions, with every other big bank. And if they go down, the Wall Street banks will almost certainly go down as well. It's been reported just recently that there have been 8 major events as significant as Lehman Brothers occurring with respect to 4 Wall Street banks just within the last month. 8 events that have had to be stemmed and pushed off by the infusion of large amounts of financing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's said that that financing has come entirely from the money produced by narco trafficking. And we'll see how much longer that holds. It may very well be that it's brought to a head if there is a currency reset by the very significant financial impacts that a currency reset will have. But these are difficult times. I'm not bringing this information to your audience because I just love to talk about these things. It's not easy to discuss at all, but it's at the same time so important it must be discussed and considered, because it certainly is not permitted to be a topic of conversation at such things as our presidential debate. The major media here is owned by entirely the same ruling elite that owns the Federal Reserve and the other central banks of the world and dominate our secret government. So they certainly enforce the rules that put the limits on what can be discussed openly in public discourse in the United States, which leaves us as a result as probably the worst informed public in the world. There may be some countries who are not informed at all, but at least they would have a better understanding of the circumstances of their own country. We don't even have that with the way our media is so completely dominated by these giant money interests that are stealing our capital value every day.
So, what should the average person expect out of this? Come Friday, come this weekend, come next week? Or is that something that we can't know until it happens?
I can't say that it's definitely going to be this weekend. This is an important date because it's the end of the fiscal year for the for the U.S. budget, for the U.S. government, and the start of a new year. And that could be a good reason for insisting upon that as this is the date that this must happen. Whether in order to avoid that, the U.S. Would do something different in terms of a cataclysmic event to stop it from happening, I don't know. This is a matter, however, this capital reset is going to happen. It's going to happen soon. The sources have said through Jim Willey that there have been 4 Wall Street banks who've said themselves off the record that there's no way that this can be kicked down the street, the can can be kicked down the street past January 1, that it's not going to last that long, that it's got to come to a head, and there will be a financial crisis of this nature no later than the end of this year. But again, these are reports, and we have to take them into account with what else is going on with the prospects for an election, or the prospects for whether there will be an election, the prospects for who the final candidates will be, and that sort of thing. These are very strange and distressed times, and you wouldn't know that really by most.
Click here to get the best services all in one with this Cox bundle. Watch shows anywhere.
Primarily just the personalities of these 2 individuals who are running for office. I do think, I'll just say openly, that despite all of the negative assessments of Donald Trump by the media, that is more an indication to me that he is an outsider, that he is not one of the establishment, even though he has been very successful financially.
Mm-hmm.
And we will never, ever have a more clear portrayal of the fact that there is only one ruling elite in the country. There's only one establishment, and it owns both leaderships of both parties. Than to have the fact that Trump, an outsider, uses his own money to get elected and get past their process they set up to make sure that only somebody with their money could ever win a primary.
Mm-hmm.
He uses his money to win it, and the leadership of the Republican Party votes for Hillary. That's exactly what we've seen in the last two. That is, the Bushes are supporting Hillary.
I know.
Bush,
yeah.
All of the Bush agents, all of the Bush stooges, from the days in which I supported them and thought they were honest,
So yeah.
are
so,
now
well,
Hillary.
so, I
If
you know
that is-
I was so shocked. I was so shocked to see this happen. I mean, it's like it's hard to imagine. Now, the emails that have been leaked so far show that Bernie Sanders never had a chance at winning the nomination, and every American that donated to his campaign, I think they should be pounding on the doors of the DNC, demanding their money back, because they, you know,
I have a hard time crying about Bernie Sanders, although it's true enough.
Well, no,
Hillary
I'm not
had
crying.
to-
I'm not crying for Bernie as much as I am for the people who were foolish enough to put their, well, the guy's a socialist, okay, and so there's no love lost for that. But when I think of the people who, you know, I suppose I should, you know, say, well, that serves you right. That's what you get for putting your money behind a socialist. But, you know, they had beliefs that they thought that, you know, his way of thinking could somehow, you know, make America a better place. The fact, forget all that, right or wrong, they were allowed to spend their money or give their money to a campaign that was... We have evidence that the DNC was never going to allow him to take the nomination. Am I explaining that clearly? I mean,
I agree with you on that, and the point is, the reason I said I wouldn't shed a tear for it is he was picked because he was such a poor candidate. He was picked because he was so far out there. I don't believe at all that there are that many Democrats who just love socialism, but they wanted to have something other than the status quo Clintons, the criminal Clintons, the murderer Clintons. That's what they had the choice between, that and some other candidate. And Bernie Sanders was the only candidate the Democratic Party would allow as a possibility to be an alternative. What if they actually had another good, another sound man of the people in the Democratic Party to run against her? Obviously, the establishment did not want that, did not permit that, and it didn't happen. But the point is that when you...
Well, I mean, are we facing the same thing with Donald Trump? I mean, has the decision already made that Hillary is going to be president, and it doesn't matter what anybody says or does between now and the election? I mean, it's just already been decided that she is going to be the president. Do you think that's truth?
Well, there may very well be that in mind as far as the elitists are concerned, that they're going to do it no matter what, and they'll use martial law or whatever necessary in order to impose that. But thinking it and doing it are two different things, and there appears to be a substantial movement in the country supporting Donald Trump, for one thing, but also there is a substantial upheaval going on within the military, within law enforcement, to knock over the traces of these elitists who are controlling their agencies and controlling their forces, and getting us into the kind of trouble that these elitists are putting us into, whether it's wars abroad or whether it's the just absolutely overwhelming criminality going on with in the highest parts of our government. The scale of the graft and corruption of Hillary Clinton in your face, requiring payoffs into their foundation in order to get State Department approvals for all kinds of actions and all kinds of favors, and even for direct sale of highly classified military and diplomatic information. That is provided by the Constitution to be a capital offense, punishable by death.
Right.
And yet, this is being done in your face, and with an FBI and Justice Department that obviously are not enforcing the law.
Well, and I mean,
I don't know.
Donald Trump almost appeared as though he had his hands tied at the debate the other night. He did not bring up Benghazi. He did not bring up the emails. He did not bring up the Clintons' war on women. He didn't bring up any of the things that one would have thought. I mean, that was his opportunity to get out in front of the American people, because, you know, I think it was the most widely watched debate in the history of America, going back to Clinton, or Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. This debate, previously that one was the most watched. This one has topped it. And I think after what a lot of people saw at the first of three debates, I don't know that they'll tune back in for number 2 and number 3. And so if Donald is saving, I don't know what it is he's waiting for. Now, supposedly there's going to be a release of some more emails 2 days before the next election. Have you heard that?
Well, I expect we'll have more emails, but at the same time, there are developments along that line. I understand that there's been a significant leak from FBI officials who report a very significant movement within the FBI agency to rectify what has gone on. They've reported in some detail the manner in which their investigation of Hillary was undercut and prevented from the top down, and that Comey had prevented it and delayed it very substantially when they were ready to make the report and to interrogate her last year, certainly by the end of the year. and yet Comey stepped in saying that he would be the one to interrogate her, and yet he delayed that month after month after month, finally bringing it down to the very late date that he finally reported his conclusions. And there's no real indication that he ever asked her anything significant at all. Plus, they report completely inappropriate procedures were used when questioning even her top aides, giving them the kind of VIP treatment and allowing them to sit in on the testimony or the answer or the interrogation of each of their colleagues, including Hillary. And all of that has very much upset people in the FBI and apparently caused the resignation of the man that was originally in charge of the investigation, who found the criminal corruption in the Clinton Foundation. And even though they described him as probably being the best qualified in the agency to be the head of the FBI, he abruptly resigned, apparently on the basis that he must have been convinced that he was not going to be permitted to conduct anything other than a whitewashed investigation of the Clintons. So we have very, very substantial problems at the very top of our government, and it's got to be substantially reformed. One of the things that they report is that the foundation and its corruption affects many individuals in Washington in both parties, and that the payoffs have apparently been spread around quite a bit, and we need to clean house. It's our responsibility to get it done. So we'll see what there's another report that you may not have seen regarding this debate just the other night.
What's that?
That is that there is a report from anonymous eyewitnesses who said that an internist from NBC put on a special uniform as I think either UPS or FedEx, I think it's UPS, a delivery person, and carried over a package to Hillary, delivering it into the office of her campaign manager personally, which contained all of the questions that would be asked her on the debate. So we'll keep having these little minor breakthroughs of people who just are close enough up to see it, the corruption, that it'll keep leaking out. But I think there are more people than the press is willing to tell us are very dissatisfied. I think the African American community is much more willing to look elsewhere than the status quo to find a candidate to represent them and to provide them better economic opportunity for jobs and prosperity. That's what everybody here is looking for, as well as personal freedom. And we have a great threat to that, it seems to me. It has been shown in the last, certainly in the last 16 years, but unfortunately it's gone back to at least 1988 that we have had a criminal element in charge of our government's highest offices, and we've got to correct it.
Well, there's an email, or not an email, but an article just came out in the Washington Post in the last hour. FBI director rejects idea of reopening the Clinton probe. That just came out today. at 1:30. He said that the question is that, there have been Republican legislators focused on a large portion of their questions on the various immunity agreements extended in the Clinton investigation, including those recently revealed for top Clinton aides. And we just lost audio again. Richard, I see your comment. Can you hear me? All right, it says the audio connection has been restored. Are you still there, Wayne?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I don't know, the fourth time that GoTo has, this morning during the live trading room, we didn't have any issues. I don't know if the internet problem is on my end or if it's on the GoTo webinar side. But anyway, that article that had just came out in the Washington Post, they said, what about the information that's come out since then? And Comey flatly dismissed the idea that Clinton herself should be prosecuted, though he said an FBI employee doing what Clinton did would be in big trouble, even if they were not criminally charged. He bristled at any suggestion that Clinton faced a double standard or that agents were influenced by politics. You can call us wrong, but don't call us weasels. So,
I think you could call him a good deal worse. You know
yeah,
where Comey
I think
came
so.
from?
Where?
Comey is a Bush, I guess you could call him a Bush stooge or puppet, whatever you want. But before he was appointed director of the FBI, he was on the board of directors of HSBC Bank. HSBC Bank is the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. It now is headquartered, I believe, in Colorado, having been purchased by interest there, and is reputed to be the most criminal of all of the big banks in terms of narco and other money laundering activities. So he was most certainly aware of those activities by the Bush-Clinton cartels, and so I have no confidence in his statements or conduct. But that's where we are, and I think I've taken the full hour and maybe a little more. So,
well, Wayne,
I'll be happy to
thanks for coming and spending some time with us. We appreciate it very much. And you know, if this business happens Friday, I mean, we could be looking at a very different world. Guys, you can visit Wayne's site, classiccapital.com, and his book is available on the front page, The Fruits of Graft, right here. I mean, this currency reset, this addition of the yuan to the basket, I mean, that's a fact. That's going to happen, right?
Yes.
So,
And
I mean,
fact
but
is
we
that,
but we just don't know what the ramifications are going to be. Correct.
well, the Chinese are in a position to do pretty much what they wish with that basket of currencies. I see no particular usefulness for it, and I don't think it will have that much. The reason the Chinese are in a position to do what they wish with it is because they have been the only one for the last year or more contributing any money to the support of the IMF. So therefore, they certainly control what is done with the SDR. But I don't think that basket is going to have any real usefulness in future commercial transactions worldwide with the new currencies that will be coming online. When you have multiple gold-backed currencies from a number of important trading nations of the world, those currencies will carry the day, and other lesser currencies will have to be converted into those currencies in order to be accepted for international trade purchases. That will be the case with the U.S. dollar. Frankly, I don't think the U.S. Has any gold left. Whatever we had, we supposedly had something like 8,000 plus tons in the 90s, but reports have been for some time that all of that is gone because Robert Rubin of Goldman Sachs, as Treasury Secretary, with Bill Clinton as President, arranged for a so-called zero interest rate leasing policy, and so you could lease gold for nothing, which means that's the same thing as either getting it for free or stealing it. And all of that is gone, and so there's nothing to back a gold-backed U.S. dollar. It's been pointed out, for example, that if we wanted to use other assets to back it, such as our petroleum reserve, strategic petroleum reserve is what they call it, that to cover our trade deficit for 1 year, that is $500 billion, it would take 70 times the amount of value we have in our strategic petroleum reserve. So there are difficult times ahead in terms of the purchasing power that is produced by U.S. Work and production, and so we're going to have to we need to end the Fed as soon as possible to stop the bleeding, and reform our government, reform our currency in order to make it an honest currency again, and that's going to be a difficult time. But I will look forward to talking with you again next time, and thank you for your time.
Hey, let me, before you go, are you still there? Okay, it came back. Primary entry point stations. Is that something you're familiar with? This audio. All right, I guess the audio's back again.
I'm with you.
Are you familiar with the primary entry point stations? I have a monitor that runs off to the side over here with the volume down, and you have it on the financial station, CNBC, but just so I can watch the scroll that goes across the bottom. But my screen just went blank, and you know how you get the emergency. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Yes.
But this was different. This was on the screen. It said it was a primary entry point stations test, and that it was going to run for like 20 minutes. Is that something new?
That is strange.
It's. I just Googled it, and it's a FEMA organization.
I'm not familiar with it.
Primary entry point stations are private or commercial radio broadcast stations that cooperatively participate with FEMA to provide emergency alert and warning information to the public during and after incidents and disasters.
Well, it may be something going on that they don't want us to hear about right now, so the stations are interrupted.
Yeah, that's possible, I suppose.
See how that goes. I don't know what they might be doing, but I'll check it out on our television and see.
Yeah, mine's come back now. But anyway, all right, Wayne. Well, listen, thanks so much, and we look forward to talking to you next Wednesday. Have a great week.
Okay, we'll be in touch in regard to these communications issues.
Yeah, let's get that fixed. I sure want to get that straightened out. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Dwayne.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Richard, OPEC just agreed to production cuts. Oil is popping. Jett says all the questions are scripted prior to the debate. Scripted by the candidates themselves? Scripted by their party? Oh, the questions. Oh, yeah, but the candidates had opportunities to bring up topics, or I realize no questions were asked about those hot button topics that I just mentioned, but I'm surprised that Trump never brought any of it up. So it is dropping on my end. Okay, great. Thanks, TL. I appreciate that. I wonder why. They're brand new. Brand new Cox modem. They came out here recently and replaced that. Well, if we run into any more problems with it, I may just go to leasing one of theirs, just like I leased the modem. I think I call it a cable box, but I meant the modem. All right. Well, we spent more time with Wayne than I had intended, and we'll run real quick through these markets. The Dow just shot up. Okay, so we were looking to buy 181.60, and so we hit 84. We hit 93, and now we've hit 237. Let's go back and take a look at the S&P and see what happened over there. Yeah, look at that. So earlier I talked about on a typical kind of a week where we had this buy at 21.55, we would have easily gone up to the zone overhead. Well, it took 1, 2, 3 attempts, but this last attempt has gone from zone to zone, and the majority of the move coming in the last 30 minutes. And I'm guessing, Richard, that has something to do with what you just brought up. Let's take a look. And let's go to news. Actually, looks like that other one might have been. Oil jumps after report. OPEC reaches deal to limit oil production in November. Oil prices rose more than 4%. Well, these unwelcome commercials are. You guys don't hear them, but I do. Oil prices rose more than 4% on Wednesday on a report. Let's take a look at these oil prices. That OPEC members have reached a deal to limit oil supply, though the details remained uncertain. Okay, well, let's go to crude. Now, we had crude oil inventory numbers this morning at 10:30, which was this candle, but this is all after the fact. Let's shrink this up and get the whole thing in view. Okay, we got a zone overhead at 47.60. $55/60. Now, the way this thing's moving, it might just stormtroop its way right through it. 47.55, 47.60. Yep. And below that was 45.90. /95. Globex open Sunday night was back here. Yeah, that green candle right there. That was the Sunday night Globex open. All right, and the zone below that was 45.10, 45.15. so here is the open. We consolidated at the zone. We went from zone to zone, back down to the zone, and then did we have anything in this area? I don't think so. Nope. The zone below was at 43.60. And then we went to 45.10. So all this here was open space. Now, did we hit the zone yet? Not yet. Now what's above that one? 47.55. 49.70, 75. Now this move just from this zone, 45.95 to 47.55. That's a $1,500 move per contract in and of itself. So let's see, last night, what were we looking at? They spoke on condition of anonymity as no decision has yet been reached at OPEC's informal meeting in Algiers. The meeting has been going on for more than 2 hours. All right, so this is on rumor. On Wednesday, the head of Libya's state-run national oil company said the country's oil production has more than doubled to 485,000 barrels a day following the reopening of oil ports this month. The best that can be hoped for at this afternoon's meeting is the laying of foundations for a deal when the cartel next meet in November, by which time Iranian oil output will have reached the all-important 4 million barrels per day mark. The drawdown in crude stocks was offset by this morning when the numbers came out. U.S. commercial crude stockpiles fell by 1.9 million barrels, but that was offset by a build in gasoline stockpiles. So what was the high there? 47.45. So we missed it by a dime. Interesting. So it shot the S&P up. So from 55 we got up to 62.75. Okay, on the Dow, what do we do? 181.60. Got up to 240. So that's 80 points. Okay, gold. What did this do to gold? Not much. Gold still trading steadily sideways. In fact, this had virtually no effect on gold at all. So let's go back to last night. And on gold, what were we looking for? Be buyers at 35, that never happened. And to be sellers at 27. That happened. Okay, so the first drop took us to a low of 25.60. So from 27 we get down to 25.60, so that's $140 per contract. In important prices, important areas, almost always tested. So this time we dropped to 21.10. So that would be $690 per contract, if my math is right. $690 per contract available. And now we've tested it again. This time we got down as low as 24. So that's about a $290 move there. Alright, let's see what else happened. Did bonds get affected in all this? Not much. What were we looking for on bonds last night? To be buyers at 69.24. So there's 69.24 right there. And we put in a high at 170.03. So from 69.24, that's 8. So that's 11. Ticks available at 31.25 per tick. Okay, now the sell side, which may have had a chance to kick in. Let me see. 168.24. Nope. Nothing on the sell side. Okay. So that's not a bad move in bonds. Crude we've talked about, but our actual buy signal was at 45 and a quarter. 45 and a quarter. And so that's okay. Buy 45 and a quarter. Okay. So the first little move up took us 45.50, so that's a quarter. It's $250 per contract. We get back below, and on this move up, we got all the way to 45.79. If we call it 75, that's 50 cents, or that's $500 per contract. So we had 250, 500, and then this one, 47, 45. 47, 45 minus 45, 25. It's $2,200. Now, the inventory news, that was down here at 10:30 a.m. this morning. So that's this red candle here. Okay, that's what brought that volatility in. And of course, we're always flat ahead of any type of known economic report. This is news, or potentially a rumor of news, or a rumor of what's going to happen. And look at how quickly the price of crude can run up. That's quite something. Alright, real quick, soybeans, do we have any movement there today? Last night we were looking to buy 954, and we got up to a high 55.75. So not the 2 points that we would look for. And on the sell side, 945, and 945 is right 944.50. Now that's if you're willing to risk back up to there. And the swing low here was exactly 945. So if you don't know how to buy and sell on a stop limit, talk to Bert. Give him a call, 866-928-3310, and let him explain to you how to do that. Okay? The NQ looks like it didn't follow suit with the rest of the market. It's still trying to grind its way up here. It's been grinding all morning. Last night we were looking for 48.66. It's basically where we are right about now. 48.66 to 73 to 71 to 70. So opportunities to get your points if you're trading the 2420 blueprint, selling 48.48, 48.48. That was on the sell side. Took you down to 44.75. That's about 3 points, and you need 5 because the NASDAQ pays $20 per point. Now the Russell took a little bit of a jump on that news. We have to go back to last night, 21.30, which is right here. And on the Russell, we were looking to buy 12.45, which is right here. So 12.45 up to 12.46, so that's $100. 12.45 up to 12.50, That's $500. And then back below the trigger, and so that's a $500. That was a $100 move, a $500 move, and another $500 move. On the sell side, for the Russell, 1239. 1239. And we got down to a low of 36.10, so that'd be $290. So the Russell provided some pretty good two-sided action, and that's it. We're done. Covered the S&P, the Dow, gold, bonds. I wish, if you OPEC to limit oil production to 32.5 million barrels per day, that's from Reuters. OPEC cut would be expected in November. Okay. Yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention, Richard. We appreciate it. Let's see. Is there anything else here that needs to be... Okay, I think we covered everything. Now, question is why OPEC is limiting their production so they can get more money for it. I mean, how clever is that? Don't you wish you had a spigot you could turn on and off like that? All right, guys, I gotta go. I gotta get ready for these mentoring sessions coming up this afternoon. I still don't have an outro file. Got the intro working properly, but the outro's not there, so I'm just gonna wave goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you when, where? At the bell. See you then.